An excited young boy named Ranvijay, Vijay Singh, son of the wealthiest industrialist in India and owner of Swastik Steel Corporation, Balbir Singh, rushes home with his older sister Reet and younger sister Roop to celebrate his beloved father's birthday. However, once home, Vijay is extremely disappointed to learn that his father's at the office like usual, and his mother Jyoti tries to console him. By the time Balbir returns home later that night, the kids are already asleep, and Jyoti expresses her disappointment to her husband about his obsessive work ethic and asks him to spend more time with his family, especially Vijay, who basically idolizes his father. A couple of decades later, Vijay, now an independent adult, returns to his country from America to celebrate his father's 60th birthday and is dismayed to hear that his childhood girlfriend Geetanjali is getting married. Vijay attends Geetanjali's engagement party, takes the bride aside to remind her of the old times, and asks her to give him a chance to rekindle their old romance. At the Singh's mansion, during Balbir's grand birthday party, all the family, including Grandpa Radhir and Reet's husband Varun, reunite and take some time out for themselves before the guests arrive. After discovering that his grandfather's family has not been properly invited, Vijay is disappointed and asks Rajdhir about it, hoping to learn why the old man has a lukewarm relationship with them, but Rajdhir vaguely dismisses it. Later, Vijay refuses Varun's, now Balbir's protege in the company, request to meet important, influential people in their business. The two get into a heated fight, which Reet tries to stop, siding with her husband. During the argument, Varun talks down to Reet, which infuriates Vijay further and into saying disrespectful things to his brother-in-law. Balbir learns of this, argues with Vijay, and orders him to apologize to Varun or leave the party. Vijay refuses to apologize and instead goes to check if Reet's okay. The siblings talk out their differences and remember how Vijay was always there to protect Reet since they were kids. Decades earlier, when Vijay was in high school, he learned that Reet had been sexually harassed in college and became enraged. Since Balbir is too unavailable to deal with it, Vijay decides to take care of it and marches into the college, shoots a shotgun in a classroom to find out who was responsible, and later drives the culprits off the road, which ends up infuriating Balbir to no end. Feeling backed against a corner when it comes to disciplining his son, Balbir sends Vijay to boarding school, hoping to get him away from all the trouble. At present, Vijay decides to be the bigger man and apologizes to Varun for everyone's relief. Then, Vijay accuses his father of favoring Varun, which enrages Balbir and prompts him to coldly tell Vijay he will never be as good as Varun and throw him out of the house for good. As the hurt Vijay packs up his stuff and prepares to leave, Geetanjali comes to see him, and he learns that she has called off her wedding in favor of being with him. Ecstatic, Vijay takes Geetanjali to Balbir's office to introduce her, but after listening to what Vijay has to say, Bilbar walks out of the room without even uttering a word, which crushes Vijay. Vijay and Geetanjali take a private plane to America, spend a romantic few days together, get intimate, and get married. Despite everything that has happened, Vijay defends Bilbar as the best father in the world and promises Geetanjali to be as good as their future children. 8 years later, Vijay is distraught to hear a report of an assassination attempt on his father and rushes home to New Delhi with Geetanjali and his 2 kids. There, after some awkward interactions, Vijay makes up with his family, except Varun, who he is still suspicious of. After a few days in critical care, Balbir starts to recover slowly, but the police have no leads as to who was responsible for boldly committing the crime in broad daylight. Hence, believing there must be a deeper plot to the criminal's risky move, Vijay takes it upon himself to investigate the matter and take action. He discreetly discusses his plans with his great-uncle, Mishram, and asks the old man to have all the phones of the people around the powerful family tapped. After a couple of days, at Swastik Steel, Vijay gathers all the worried employees, updates them on Balbir's recovery status, thanks them for all their support, and motivates them to return to work to the dismay of Varun. Vijay then goes to the village to reconcile with his second cousins and asks them for help. There, he apologizes for everything that transpired between the patriarch and Grandpa Rajdhir and gets everyone on board, which gives him a decent squad to help him carry out his plan. The next plan of action revolves around getting a body double for Balbi. Despite his father's resistance, Vijay chooses a local man and trains him to precisely impersonate Balbir, to the point even close family members couldn't tell the difference. Unfortunately, a few days later, armed men ambush the body double and his security, thinking it's Balbir, and brutally murder him. Vijay is shocked to hear of the news along with Blair. He holds a funeral for the man, and everyone pays their respects. During the funeral, Varun sees the real Balbir and is shocked and senseless. He immediately calls a colleague named Asrar Hake to tell him that they got the wrong guy, and promises to finish off Balbir himself. Unfortunately for Varun, this conversation is intercepted. Vijay and Uncle Mishram keep this information to themselves. A couple of days later, Vijay ambushes Varun while at a family meeting and publicly strangles him to death, while Reet worries back home as she hasn't heard from her husband in a few hours. Vijay keeps what transpired to himself and waits for the right time to share with the rest of the family. Vijay's home life starts taking a hit due to his preoccupation with solving this case, which disappoints Geetanjali. A few days later, while Vijay and his cousins meet with an arms dealer named Freddy at a hotel, hundreds of Asrar's men ambush them. Vijay takes out every one of them, and just as he prepares to leave, more heavily equipped men arrive and try to overpower Vijay and the cousins. After a brutal, intensive, and long fight, Vijay takes them all out almost single-handedly, and with the help of a machine gun, but sustains multiple injuries. He endures all the pain and manages to find their leader, Asrar Hake, and shoots him to death before falling unconscious as a result of his injuries. Vijay is transported to his family's private hospital and is kept in the intensive care unit for the next several days. He then comes out of his coma, but develops hearing impairment, which keeps him under close care for a few days more. Vijay is then discharged to his parents' house, where after the group of doctors list the various extensive injuries he sustained, they inform him that his heart is severely damaged, that he needs a heart transplant, and put him on the transplant list. Later that day, Vijay tells Reet about Varun, supports her through her grief, and motivates her to go back to the family business. In the following few weeks, Vijay visits different religious figures who perform various spiritual practices, hoping to cleanse his soul and prepare for a peaceful death. Once that's done, believing there's something much deeper to their ambush at the hotel, Vijay dives deeper into the investigation and becomes extremely irritable and difficult to be around. He starts mistreating the house staff and getting short with Geetanjali, who is patient and loving throughout, thinking of the good old times. Balbir becomes increasingly worried about his son, but still fails to show him a doting love, which disappoints Jyoti. Meanwhile, in Scotland, during his third wedding ceremony, the mute Abrar Haka is enraged to learn that his dear brother Asrar has been killed and brutally kills the messenger in front of his guests. He and his other brother Abdi discuss how to proceed. One day, back in India, the family gets a call from the hospital and is informed that a donor has been found. Vijay undergoes the heart transplant surgery and recovers quickly. 3 months later, a young woman named Zoya comes to the family mansion and introduces herself to Vijay as the fiancée of his heart donor. Vijay becomes touched and arranges for her to stay at his grandfather's mansion, where he starts an affair with her. Vijay and Zoya become close in the next few days, and Vijay starts spending a lot of time away from home with his mistress, which doesn't go unnoticed by Geetanjali. One day, Vijay buys a brand new car for Zoya, and as he proceeds to show her, it explodes, which shocks the young girl. Vijay calms her down, brings her a beautiful sari, and asks her to marry him, which makes Zoya quite emotional. Unable to keep the secrets any longer, Zoya details that she was sent by Abrar Hake to trap him while his youngest brother Aziz Hake plans to surgically transform himself to look like Vijay, trick the Singhs, and murder them all. Vijay reveals he has known all along that she was sent by the enemy, but sets her free without bringing her any harm. Vijay then learns that Rajdhir and his brother Shamshir had a falling out, which resulted in the Shamshir family being cut out from the Swastik Empire, which caused Shamshir to take his own life. Shamshir's son Aziz moved to Scotland with his sons Asrar and Abrar, who has turned mute after witnessing his grandfather's accident, Abid, and the youngest Aziz to start a new life while holding a grudge against the Singhs and waiting for the right time to take revenge. Later that night, Vijay confesses to Gitanjali of his infidelity, which makes the loving wife hysterical. Out of pain, Gitanjali blames Bilbar's terrible fathering for always making Vijay feel inadequate and for their failed marriage, which enrages Vijay into threatening her with a shotgun and firing it at their bedroom wall, which shocks all the members of the family, including Vijay's parents and the staff. The couple fight and cry together for long hours into the night, after which Gitanjali asks for a divorce. Later, in the wee hours of the night, Vijay, together with his cousins, sets off to Scotland on his private jet. There, they get to Abrar and Abid's mansion and overwhelm their security. In the house, Abdi is the voice of reason and convinces his brother to flee, as they are not prepared to handle the threat. Vijay and his cousins look around the house, find Abrar's wives, learn the brothers' destination, and follow them to the private airstrip nearby. There, they prevent the plane from taking off. The brothers get off and Vijay comes face to face with the mastermind behind the assassination attempt. Abrar and Vijay order their men to stand down and start a fistfight. After an intense fight, in which both get injured, Vijay comes out on top and gives Abrar a chance to make peace, and when he refuses, brutally kills him to the horror of Abid. Vijay returns home and gleefully informs his family of the news. A few nights later, on Diwali, Vijay is shocked to learn that Bilbar has been diagnosed with a terminal illness and given only a few months to leave. Despite Vijay trying to find a solution, the father and son get in a fight like always, and Bilbar cruelly declares that all the murders his son has committed weren't actually to protect him, and instead were to quench his own criminal thirst, which breaks Vijay's heart. The two argue, and after professing how much he loves his father, without knowing why and reminding his father of all of his childhood's painful memories, Vijay leaves to find his uncle Mishra. Bilbar follows him and tells Vijay how he regrets not being a good father, while Jyoti, feeling caught between the two, cries in the corner. Later that night, Gitanjali takes her kids and starts her journey back to the US, but her son opts to stay back with his father. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, Aziz, who has completed his transformation and now looks just like Vijay, brutally murders two of Vijay's cousins. He then nonchalantly meets with Abrar's new wife and informs her that he has decided to marry her and become a guardian of her two children. While Zoya, who is now a few months pregnant, nurses her morning sickness while trying to figure out whether Aziz or Vijay is her child's father. The movie ends as Aziz vows revenge for his brother's death and promises to bring down the Swastik Empire and the entire Singh family.